In the next 10 years, we'll start to see robots that are totally autonomous or fully in control. And as this happens, robots will start to rely on more and more of our data.
In order to be adaptive to the novel environments, the robots need to collect more data. If we have more data, we get more powerful algorithms. However, collecting more data comes with issues related to privacy, ethics, and security.
The problem starts when those smart technologies learn something about you that you don't want anybody to know. And this leads us back to an interesting science fiction example. 2001 Space Odyssey.
In the classic Stanley Kubrick epic, there's a scene where the two astronauts realize that the spacecraft's onboard computer, HAL, is working against them. So they lock themselves in a pod, thinking that HAL won't hear them.
The problem was the robot learned how to read lips and was able to understand what they were saying. So the question is that completely dystopian? Well, I don't actually think it's that far-fetched. Robots are already listening to everything we do. Think about call center agents. Everything they talk about on the phone is being recorded. Everything they write in an email is being recorded. And this information can be used to infer if they're happy or angry, if they want to leave their job, and even if they're pregnant or not. And let's be clear, none of that is legal.
Investigative journalists at ProPublica discovered that Facebook was able to guess the ethnicity of their users based on their online behavior.
And that actually had terrible consequences because Facebook allowed advertisers to exclude people of color from seeing job advertisements, advertisements for housing, and ads for social services.
The real quality of those algorithms depend upon the data that it's fed. And if you've got a biased data, say for example, white male only data, then you will obviously get systems that are particularly biased towards those demographics, and that can be pretty bad.
So the ProPublica case actually never went to court, so we don't actually know how a judge would have seen it. The whole thing was resolved by Facebook promising to change their business practices, which they unfortunately never did. Facebook never got punished, and they're still doing the same thing today. And that just shows that sometimes you need legal action to bring about real change. One of the problems is that technology is much faster than lawmaking. So the technology is racing ahead where the politicians are still discussing the debate. And that often leads to a gap in legal protection that needs closing.
That is the flip side of the coin of any new technology.
One of the solutions is better regulation. Regulation that protects our data. We need regulation that assigns clear liability, that makes sure that everybody has a fair chance on the job market. We're standing at a very important crossroad, and it is us that get to decide what the future of technology will look like. We are the ones in control, in the same way that it is us that get to decide if we use a knife to cut bread and feed somebody, or if we use a knife to injure somebody.
Okay, nose over toes. Ready, steady, stand.
Although we need to be conscious of our data and our privacy, there's no doubt roboticists have the potential to make a huge positive impact on people's lives.
And forwards.
My brain just could not comprehend that my legs were moving.
You stand on the left, don't go too far forwards.
And could not wrap itself around the fact that I was moving and my feet were moving me.
You're already getting light.
I still feel like RoboCop. Can you imagine how much of a power move it would be to just come into a board meeting on one of these things? It'd be a good selling point for the investors, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.